Today's video is going to be playing with the Morphe Jaclyn Hill Armed and Dangerous palette from the Vault collection. It has some amazing warm tones as well as some beautiful golds that we'll be playing with. So if you'd like to see how easy it is to achieve this look, sit back, relax, and enjoy. One thing that's really important to do is to create a base for your eyeshadow so that it can go on smooth and blend really well. So what I'll basically do is I will take my Shape Tape, and when I'm doing my under eye concealer, I will then take it up onto my eye area so that it does create a nice smooth area for my shadow to apply and blend. So as you can see, it covers up any redness and it really does create a very nice smooth surface to work with. One thing I will say is using a sponge is much more conducive as to a brush. With brush, you're going to have strokes. There's not going to be a nice smooth surface, whereas the sponge will allow you to press the product in to get rid of any creases or any additional product that's distributed throughout your eyelid. It really does just create a nice smooth surface to work with. And then of course what I'll do is I will take my setting powder, which any translucent will do just fine, and then I'll just powder over my eyelid, and then of course taking the sponge as well, I'll then dip into the translucent and set my under eye area to prevent any creasing throughout the day. Now of course I do have, with age comes wrinkles and most people do have under eye texture regardless of age, so keep that in mind. You don't want to put a huge layer of product underneath your eye because it is going to draw more attention to the texture and it's gonna make your under eye area appear much more dry than if you were to go in with a lighter application of translucent or whatever powder you use. I also do suggest using a translucent as to a powder that does have color, because if it's a product that has color, it's going to create another layer of makeup. So a translucent really is the best idea because it's going to give you just a nice clean wash of powder, as opposed to using a pressed powder like Studio Fix, for example. The Studio Fix Compact, that's intended for a foundation application, so it is going to give you a thicker application to your final look. And then throughout the day, of course, it tends to look more cakey, so translucent is definitely the way to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my brows and the rest of my face off camera. So the eyeshadow that I'm going to be using today is another one by the Morphe Vault collection. It is the Armed and Gorgeous Palette. It has some really great warm tones and these golds, which I have absolutely fallen in love with. So we're definitely going to be playing with those today. As always, the brushes that I'm going to be using are Morphe and will be down listed in the description. So the first color that I'm going to go in with as my transition is this color Access here. It's a really pretty warm toned yellow, and I'm going to go in with the Morphe M55, which is just basically a fluffy tapered brush. It's really great to use as a transition brush. So I'm just going to tap into that slightly, of course tapping off any excess, and just start blending in. And as always, it's much easier to go in with a little bit of product and build up, as opposed to laying down a ton of product and fighting with blending it because it's just too much product and you've then created a mess. So I always go in with minimal product and just build my way up from there. I'm just going back and forth, windshield wiper motions, really working on getting it in the crease. Although we are going to be applying additional color on top of this, this is just a really great color to lay down as a transition shade, basically giving it a base to blend out the additional colors. And I always drag it out following the line of my lower lash line so that it doesn't create a droopy effect on my eye. One thing to also keep in mind, because this is your transition shade and you are going to be applying more color that is going to give a gradient going down, you will want to bring this up slightly higher onto the brow bone, knowing that you're going to transition downward. When you're applying, you're bringing it up far enough when your eye is open so that you know exactly what you have to work with as far as surface space. So now the next color that I'm going to go in with, I'm actually going to bring this on my lower lash line, is the color Top Secret, which is this really great green here. And I'm going to be going in with the Morphe M506, which is a smaller, fluffy, tapered brush. So I'm just going to lightly tap into that, of course, tapping off some of the excess. Bringing it pretty close to the lash line. You definitely want to get it as close as possible to the lash line. Now, because this is a pretty deep dark color, I definitely don't go in with a heavy hand, because again, I'd rather be able to build it up than to lay down too much product and it's not easy to blend and it's not workable. And again, dragging it out on the outer corner to give it the somewhat cat eye effect. And when you're doing your opposite eye, you definitely want to step back a little bit to make sure that they're symmetrical. Of course, your eyes are not symmetrical. Your face is definitely asymmetrical, just like with your brows. They are sisters, not twins. So there always is going to be that one that's giving you a little bit of trouble. Same thing with your eyes. They are definitely asymmetrical. So it's just step back a little bit and kind of play with it until you get them as even as possible. So now the next color that I'm going to go in with, and I'm going to go in with a additional fluffy brush. I'm going to go in with the M504. It is definitely one of my favorite brushes. As you can see, it's very fluffy and it is amazing for blending. So I'm going to go in with a deeper shade here. I'm going to go in with the color Agent, which is this really deep orange, kind of almost like a pumpkin color. So I'm just going to tap into that ever so slightly, tapping off. I mean, you can really see all of the excess. This definitely has quite a bit of pigment, and it does have some kickback, but as long as you remember to tap off your brush, you'll be perfectly fine. So now again, just remembering to always get really good on your inner corner. You don't want to get here and then there's no color on your inner corner. Obviously, you want it to blend throughout your entire eyelid. And this is just with one tap into the product. I mean, you can see it really is very pigmented. And this is what I was referring to, where as the color transitions, I mean, obviously I'm not going to take it all the way up to where that initial transition color was, because then that kind of defeats the purpose of laying down that initial color. And of course, as always, dragging out on the outer corner, really kind of getting in there. So another thing that I would do is take the original brush that you laid down the transition color. You're going to want to blend the transition color and the color that we just sat down so that there's no harsh lines. You want it to be nice and blended. And that's one thing about Morphe in general, is they are an amazing brand as far as their eyeshadows, blushes, highlights. I mean, they're very blendable and very pigmented. The next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take an M411, which is a tapered fluffy brush as well. It's a little more dense, as you can see, and it's really great for getting into the crease area. So I'm going to take the color Smooth Criminal, which is a nice brown here, and I'm going to tap into that ever so slightly. Again, I cannot stress how pigmented these are. And then just working that into the crease area. And little circular motions to kind of bring it up slightly, and again back and forth windshield wiper motions. So you can see, I mean, it really does make a difference as far as bringing depth to the crease. You don't need to go in with an extremely dark color. You just want to create more depth so that when we lay the lid color down, it's really going to make that color pop. And then of course, to create more of a cat eye look, bringing it out slightly, just basically meeting up with that color that we used on our lower lash line and dragging it up slightly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same color and I'm going to bring it on to my mobile lid on the outer V. I mean, you can really see how much pigment that this palette has. I went in with literally a very light hand and it pretty much did the job that it was meant to do with just the slightest amount of product. And then again, going in with the previous brush that we laid down Agent, just kind of blending this out slightly so that there are no harsh lines. But it really doesn't need much blending because just with the previous application, it really did blend out nicely. I'm gonna go in with VIP, which is this vibrant white. I mean, it's an amazing color with some really great reflex in it that it's like a duochrome. It's a beautiful color. And as always, I'm going to take my palette as well as some Fix Plus, and I'm just going to spritz it slightly. A little product goes a long way. You really don't need much. And again, you can use water, you can use any other setting spray. You can even use Visine if you have sensitive eyes. So I'm just tapping in very lightly with an M213. It's a flat brush, which is perfect for the little details of the inner eye. So I'm just going to use that on this inner portion here. And I mean, you can see I barely tapped in, and look at that. It's a freaking amazing color. And it really doesn't do it justice on camera. In person, it's much more vibrant and iridescent. I am going to take the color Classified, which is this bottom lower color. It has like a coppery gold kind of tone to it. And I'm going to take my pinky finger and I'm just going to tap into it. And I'm going to press this in while kind of dragging it across my eye as well. Now this will give a little bit of fallout. That's why I say pressing it in while dragging, just to kind of prevent as much fallout as possible. You can also do this with a wet brush if you prefer. It's entirely up to you. So now I'm gonna go in with this beautiful gold. It's gonna make all the world of a difference. It's called Coin. And look at that. How amazing is that color? And then I'm just gonna take my pinky and kind of blend out. Just make sure to use your pinky to really blend it into that original VIP color. I am going to take a smaller tapered brush, the M149, and I'm gonna go in with the color Classified. But what I'm gonna do is I am going to wet this brush slightly to pick some of that up. And then I'm going to drag this on my lower lash line. Just to give a little pop on the lower lash line. Taking my Y22 pointy small taper brush, I'm gonna go in with VIP again, tap off some of that excess and add that to my inner corner. Because this is the brush that I absolutely love for my brow highlight, I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe the excess off and then go with my Shroom by MAC. I just feel like it's a really great highlight color. There are plenty of highlight colors out there. You can actually use whatever it is that you use for your cheek or you know, your overall highlight for under your brow bone. I just happen to love this color. It's a really nice subtle highlight, but it definitely makes a difference. And I just use a very soft hand when doing this. A little bit of highlight under the brow bone is really all that's necessary. And then I'll just go in one last time with that original brush that I used for my transition shade, just to kind of smooth it out slightly and blend it. Now on to lashes, I'm gonna go ahead and go in with my, as always, tried and true, my Voluminous by L'Oreal, and I will be right back. And here is the finished look. I'll go ahead and list all of the items and products used below, including the lip products used. In addition, if there's anything that you're kind of having trouble playing with as far as an eye look, any colors you want to kind of see, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll do my best to bring that your way. Please give this video a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified for future videos. See you soon. Bye.